Hey, what's going on, everybody? Paul Tully with the FYI podcast. I'm sitting here with Thomas Pound. Super exciting episode today. Thomas is a writer, producer, aspiring human being in so many ways. He aspires to get projects done and get them greenlit. So if anybody's interested, we'll put his socials up. Thomas, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
No, super excited, man. I'm a fan. I love, always been fascinated with the craft of writers and what writers do. And I've done a little bit of writing, but nothing at your level. And I'm excited to jump in. One other thing I want to mention, we met Thomas here because your nephew is an incredible talent and helps out immensely on this podcast. So we might bring him on later. I don't know. We'll see
he
how
should
this goes.
absolutely be in the hot seat. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's start with you. Thomas, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you're from,
Yeah. So I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which is, I kind of call it the south of the north. And urban sprawl kind of a town, suburbs, cul-de-sac, that kind of seemingly boring upbringing. So my escape and my passion and interest quickly lied in worlds of film, television, comic books, what have you. But I grew up as just kind of a big cinema nerd. My whole family we were always at the theaters every week, and probably being taken to films I shouldn't have been taken to. Just because being the youngest of four with a significant age gap, I think that my parents were at a point where they were just done caring. They're like, he'll be fine. And they were right, I think. So grew up with this just immense passion in this environment of one of my brothers introduced me to films and like Heat, Interview with a Vampire, like all way before I should have even known what they were. Commando, like all.
Yes.
And
I just watched Commando. That's funny.
Oh, it holds up.
Yeah, it holds up.
It's amazing.
That's great.
So it became a passion of mine, and from the time I was a teenager, I just wanted to experience more and more of it, and I started out acting. I started out acting in Calgary in theater, and found such an amazing outlet that way. And it wasn't until I had my buddies that I think we all have at a certain age of we were all just movie guys. We would we would have our movie nights, stay up all night, watch movies, everything great, everything horrible. Anytime we would go and see a film on the bus ride to school the next day, I would be the guy who would just not shut up and just go, you know what they should have done? They should have done this, this, and this. They should have done that, that, and that. And I think one day I just got carried away talking about one particular film, of just ranting. I must have been ranting too long, because my buddy turned to me and he goes, why don't you just go write it?
Wow.
And that was honestly like a light switch.
That ignited it.
Oh, yeah, I guess I could. There's nothing stopping me.
Right.
What does a script look like? And so I remember going online and finding, what does a screenplay look like? At the time, for whatever reason, I was watching this Ed Burns film, Confidence, a lot. It's like a heist film.
Yeah.
I was watching that a lot. And so I found the screenplay for that online, and I just kind of looked at how it was formatted and then just made it up, and then just sat down to start writing. And I very, very quickly realized, like, oh, this is hard.
Yeah, right. How did you start? Literally, did you just sit down? Was there any method you used? Like, did you start with one character, two characters, or just kind of free flow?
Yeah, the very first one was, I had no process. I was a 14, think you know everything kind of a kid. And, at 14, obsessed with Tarantino and those kinds of filmmakers. So I was like, I'm going to do my Tarantino script.
Right.
I'm going to do that. And
nice.
So I started writing with no sense of story structure or character development or arcs or anything like that. It was just, this is what I could imagine what was kind of free flow coming out for a script. And at 14, I remember feeling so liberated in the sense where, oh my gosh, I can make these guys swear.
Yeah.
And
I control these.
I can control this universe. But you very quickly found how, that can be overused. And that doesn't feel real. And it was simple reactions of friends reading pages, friends' parents reading pages, and just getting this kind of feedback that continued to propel me forward. And so once I got that first kind of terrible screenplay out of my system, it was very much like, well, what's my next thing? What this is, I've found something. I don't know what this is, but I'm really loving this. Yeah. So I would be the kid in high school who I would be giving everything I got to my drama class, being on stage, performing Shakespeare in the high school play, and then going home at night and just writing in my parents' basement until the early hours, just kind of free-flowing, making it up as I go.
Super cool. So how far, so you did theater?
Yes.
You mainly as an actor, and were you able to write any like one acts or any kind of plays in drama class, or did that start more in college?
No. It was another transformative moment. Is I was so fortunate to have a teacher in high school, my drama teacher, Steve Boynan-Segni, Mr. B, who I remember coming to him at 15, and it was early in the year, just about September, and saying, you know what we should do for our Halloween play this year is we should do Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because in my 15-year-old brain, I was like, that's my acting challenge of a lifetime. I will play both roles.
Yeah.
In my brain,
that's
I'm
awesome.
That's where I'm going to go this year. And he was amazing and supportive of that. And I remember he just turned to me, he's like, okay, go write it. And again, a moment of, oh, I didn't expect that kind of push in a good way.
Yeah.
So went to the library, and I'd never even read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I got the book and read it and adapted it to a very simple one-act play. And he put it on. We made it as a class. I wrote it, and we put it on with every single component of a full theater production, and had audiences coming in for our Halloween show. And it hit something else of now, not only it changed from I'm writing this in my basement and thinking of this world to I'm writing this in my basement and thinking of this world and then bringing it to people.
Yeah.
And now being able to perform it. And the satisfaction I found wasn't from the acting challenge of my 15-year-old lifetime. It was, holy cow, like an audience saw this.
Yeah.
Got to share it.
Yeah.
And talk with people after of like, what did they respond to? What didn't they respond to? And it continued to light that spark of, I want to bring more stories to people.
Yeah. I love that. You evoked emotion and with the power. I mean, there's something so powerful about writing and to, like you said, to be able to put these words in the characters' mouths and the way they move. I mean, and then to see the audiences engage with that, right? It's such a incredible feeling, and
it is, and it's also therapeutic. I wouldn't have used the word as a teenager, but it is therapeutic in a sense.
Yeah.
You're working through, whether you realize it or not, a lot of your own stuff. You're working through a lot of, if your character's going through this journey of facing the demon inside. Well, I was 15, so of course we have a lot of demons at 15.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was processing those raging hormones and a lot of those feelings, and didn't realize it at the time, but that becomes therapeutic, because then it's also a way where you speak with your audience, you speak with your friends after, oh, I really connected with this. Well, they're connecting with you.
Yeah.
They're connecting with you, and suddenly I feel seen and heard and connected, and just, wait, you feel that too? Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So did you know at that time, like high school, this is it, this is what I'm going to pursue? Did you go off to college did that lead into, how long did it take for you to decide, like, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate in the sense where I knew I wanted to do this. I wanted to, in high school, I looked at it as like, I want to be a writer director. I looked at my idols like Tarantino. But it was really when I saw the film Memento. That was the film that changed everything for me.
Great film.
For whatever reason. I just happened to throw on the VHS because I heard my brother talking about it with my dad and saying, oh, there's this weird movie that like plays backwards. Yeah. I thought, that's weird. So threw it on and watched it, and I was riveted, not only because it's an amazing film, but there was this moment of going, oh, I didn't know you could do this. I
Right.
didn't know you were allowed to do this.
Yeah.
And it works, and it's engaging, and it's clever, and it pushes storytelling in a whole new direction. And I realized, like, my gosh, that's what I want to do. I wanted to be a writer director, but it's like ultimately I want to be a storyteller. So quickly I set my sights on film school, and I went to Vancouver Film School right out of high school. So from suburbs of Calgary to downtown Vancouver at 18 years old, just getting in there and thinking I'm going to do this 12-month intensive at Vancouver Film School, and then I'll start making movies.
Right. Yeah. As soon as I'm done with this.
As soon as I'm done, they'll just all start calling.
I'll make E.T.
Yeah, exactly.
So how long before you came out to the States, to L.A.?
Quite a while. Quite a while, because I was working in Vancouver. I went through the 12-month program, and which was essential because it really did kind of ground my viewpoint on how this all works. It goes from this place of I'm creating this world of imagination in my head and watching all of these bombastic behind-the-scenes special features on DVDs.
Yeah.
To now you are with your peers carrying C-stands. Now you are with your peers like setting up lighting. Now you're with your peers like trying to set up a shot and going, oh, this is tough.
Yeah.
How do I tell the story in this different way? And so that really became the school. The school became the experience of being in the trenches with peers, and then immediately after film school, working in Vancouver on sets.
Yeah.
As entry level, I was an assistant to every kind of major position, whether I was a producer's assistant, a casting assistant, director's assistant, actor's assistant. And what that afforded me was access to sit closely in how it all works and how it all operates. And how does this machine of just all these people kind of come together to make whatever you're making?
Yeah.
All the while writing.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't go to film school, and that's the one thing that I feel is so essential. It's seeing how the whole unit works, because we get so I came in as an actor, so and you realize how important every single component of what we're doing, from the gaffers to the grips to the talent, the actors to the it's just so it's great that you got that whole experience. Any points during the schooling process that you felt like this isn't going to work for me? This isn't what I expected, or was it like this is definitely what I want?
Yeah, there was not a doubt. It's nice. I feel very fortunate for whatever reason, hubris, let's call it. There was no doubt, but it was definitely not what I expected in the sense of getting down to the nitty gritty and forcing, you have these aspirations as a teenager and these dreams and this image in your head of like what that future is. And a lot of that's based on interviews you listen to or behind the scenes features of people you admire, filmmakers. You're not going to start there. Right. And film school was a great way to ground me and to get me down to baseline, to launch me into the world of, okay, now you're going to work your way up, and now you're going to work your way through the system, because you have to learn how this all works first. Now, that was essential for me as a person. That's not necessarily essential for everybody else. That's not what everybody else got out of it, but that's something amazing that I took away from it and I still cherish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So coming out of film school, how did you start gigging? What was the process? I mean, did you get internships or?
Oh yeah, the very first job was non-paid director's assistant for a small, tiny budget Wesley Snipes action movie.
Nice.
So I was just on cloud nine. I was
Did you get to meet Wesley?
Yeah, I got
Nice.
to. I got to. I guess work with him when it's really I got to stand near him.
It's good enough.
I'll take it. And it became a thing where someone at the production reached out to the film school saying, hey, we need someone who will work for free.
Yeah, of course.
And one of my teachers called me. It was like, hey, do you want to work for free? I was like, yes, I do. And so I went and I interviewed for it. and very short interview of, are you okay to get coffee? Yeah. Are you okay to work for free? Yes. It's very clear. And then that was it. And then I was thrown into the deep end of working with this director who was doing this Wesley Snipes film, and in it every day, and seeing firsthand now, while getting him coffee and all the assistant type duties, seeing how a whole team of people put together an action sequence, seeing how a whole team of people, of artists, collaborate to not only make this as entertaining as possible, but to also make it as efficient as possible. So that was my first real up close and front glimpse into the incredible collaborative process, and seeing firsthand when it does work and when it doesn't work. It doesn't work if there's resistance. It doesn't work if there's people fighting each other over pride, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having that glimpse, like, really, again, hit me with that feeling of, this is where I got to be.
That's so you mentioned that one of your teachers earlier, high school drama teacher. Were there any other figures, mentors that you ended up coming into contact with that helped you, along this journey? Anyone that stands out?
Oh, plenty. This whole journey has been only possible because of mentors and extremely instrumental people. One of them, my drama teacher who I mentioned, Steve, he was enormously instrumental in getting me just to even write and put on and share those stories. A film school teacher of mine, Richard Martin, director, he was incredibly instrumental and supportive of me just pursuing it. He brought me on as his assistant on a film that he did shortly after. And then as I was just casually writing screenplays at my apartment, I would show him drafts, and I would just say, can I get your thoughts? And he was so generous and kind with his time. I was like 19, and we would go out for martinis and talk about the script. And he would give me such great feedback of, okay, like, if I was directing this, instead of having these two people talk here for 3 pages, I would maybe have them moving. I would maybe have them this, like, and it didn't feel like a teacher-student dynamic.
Yeah.
It felt much more like just someone sharing their wisdom selflessly.
Yeah.
And that always, in all the mentors I've ever had, like, that's the kind of response that's always stuck deeply with me, and is also feeds as a bit of encouragement of, you're on the right track. Keep going.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that. I have do you ever feel you've been doing this for over
about 18 years.
18 years. So you still find the extreme joy in the art? Does the business ever dilute that or get you in a negative, or does it still excite you?
Oh, no. Well, yeah. I mean, the business is definitely going to impact and can easily turn things feeling negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially like just this time right now in the industry is very difficult. There's a huge retraction in the business. There's maybe 1/3 of the TV shows that are being made as compared to 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because of that, there's a major contraction. There's less opportunity. There's less work. And as a human being, as a husband, as a father, there's those stresses. There's the reality. You just can't avoid that. And you have those stresses whether you're an adult father, husband, or you are a 20-year-old in your apartment just trying to break in. Those stresses feel the same. The key that I have found, and it's a daily challenge, it's a daily conscious effort to hook into, why do you still love this? Why do you still want to do this? And constantly asking myself, do you still want to do this? Do you still love this? And truth be told, I sit down and whether it's going into these creative worlds that I'm making up in my head, or more importantly, getting back to that place on set where you are making something with people. That is always the most rewarding part of the job for me. Is on any show I've ever done, the most rewarding part is always being on set with everybody, the crew, the cast, and trying to just collaborate and get to a place where it's like, this feels good. Like, let's just do this.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned Tarantino. I just listened to his Sundance interview, and he spoke, intently on going back to theater, or not necessarily going back for him, but going now to theater, and that the film industry is not where it's not in the place he fell in love with.
Sure.
So he's going to theater. I myself love theater. I had a theater company. So have you written theater besides since high school? Have you ever revisited writing plays? Or because that collaborative process, what's so beautiful about theater is obviously it's I'm not talking about Broadway necessarily, but intimate theaters, the cost is very affordable to produce your own kind of work, cast your own, build your own team, unlike film, which is, or TV, which is where you live, which is extraordinarily expensive. Have you thought about writing plays or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a passion. It's still love. My wife and I will go to theater all the time, especially the Passage and Playhouse is kind of like a legendary theater. And it's definitely still a passion. It's still a love. In the last few years, certainly since the strike, I'm constantly trying to just be aware of what did my 13-year-old self, who started just writing in the basement because his buddy said, I don't want to hear it anymore.
Create it. Yeah.
What did he love? And it didn't matter about the business. It didn't matter about what theater is going to be there, which audience is going to get. Is it going to trend online?
Yeah. Distribution deals.
Yeah, it's just about like the passion and the love of what it is. And that's been a part that I'm constantly trying to get my heart back into, and on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I think it's very easy to kind of start going through the motions and start getting maybe a little tired, a little jaded,
a
little discouraged. And discouragement is normal as long as you can still hold on to, like, what do you love about this?
Yeah. No, I connect with you 100% on that. Me and my circle of friends, constantly, it's a daily check-in. You're 100% right. I literally have this conversation daily, maybe with especially, my actor friends who, the window constantly feels like it's closing as an actor, even for all of it, but it's easy to get jaded. Like you said, jobs have reduced. I think they're a little more open for actors with all the streaming, but for writers, I know that, it's so we constantly are talking about that. Like, why are we doing this? Why did we get into this? And I feel like that's important because if there's still the passion for it, then you're going to continue. But when it becomes too much on the business side of where I thought I'd be now, or, I thought I'd be in the Coppola seat by now, and I thought I'd have The Godfather, and it's it's that constant reminder. And that's what I love about theater as well. So that's why I stay very connected with theater, because I always feel alive.
Oh, yeah.
Being on set, filming is phenomenal too, but it's so rare and in between that I get to either be in that director chair or even as an actor to book a job. It's 100 auditions to maybe get a co-star. But with theater, it's just we could get in there and do the table work and I love it. So I just check in daily too and go, no, I still love it, and we got to keep going and try not to judge myself too by other people's careers and standards. Do you find that difficult when you have successes, or because you've had, great success, and do you find it like judging your past projects with what you're doing now?
What I find is I don't find it difficult to, other people's successes really don't impact me, and I don't and I only mean that just because I can separate. That has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
When it's friends, fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope all my friends and people I don't know have plenty of success. That doesn't limit how much success is out there in the world for us.
Right.
There's not a finite amount. Right. What the challenge is the internal judgment, which you spoke of just whatever I'm doing. That internal judgment of this project that you're writing needs to be at this level by this time. And it's arbitrary thoughts. It comes from no place other than just a place of self-judgment. And so that becomes, at times, the biggest kind of internal battle to navigate, to kind of work against. That's the voice, that's the part that comes out and goes, well, the business is requiring this, and the business is contracting, and you've got a family, and this script that you've been working on for months, it's not coming together, maybe because you don't have it anymore. Those doubts, those just normal uncertainties that we all face with, the battle can become, especially when it's a stressful time, that can be what stops you.
Yeah.
The danger of stopping can only come from within, in my opinion. And so to counter that with exactly what we're talking about, of just, okay, I hear all that can exist.
Yeah.
But what do I love? I'm still pulled back to this. I have to push through it. It becomes a conscious effort to not listen to it and to push in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see why Andrew speaks so highly of you. No, I mean, you're really articulate and inspiring. Like everything you're saying is stuff I needed to hear today. You ever have those days where you wake up and you're like, all right, you're going to go do a job or whatever, and there's somebody you meet and you're like, man, this is why. Like you definitely are inspiring me and getting me thinking. With that said about Andrew, how does it feel to know how much you impact your nephew? How much he's been inspired? And do you know? Because he's a great asset to our team, very talented, good young man. He always has great energy. He's very positive, and he speaks very highly of you. And do you know that? Do you know how much you've inspired him through your own journey? And
he's he's so insanely generous and kind of saying that to me himself, and compliments are uncomfortable for me. So
well, we're going to make you more uncomfortable. Why don't we bring Andrew in here and we could get an uncle nephew moment. Okay. Andrew, welcome onto the show.
Thank you. This is so trippy because I know what the back end of this looks like, but I've never been in front of the cameras. So
you bet you're going to really have to make us look cool now when you edit this one. You know, I mean,
no pressure.
How's it feel to sit here next to your uncle? I just hit him with a question. It looked like he felt that. I could tell that you felt it. So how does that feel to sit next to your uncle? And I mean, I know how you speak of him. I'll let you talk.
Yeah, it's awesome. It really is. I mean, this is a moment in time where we could sit together, but this has been like a whole lifetime of talking about wanting to work together one day and sit next to each other. And I always break up with him, so I'm going to try not to get too emotional, but it's great. No, I'm very proud to be here with him.
Yeah. It's okay to get emotional. Think about it. A lot of people that are watching right now, not to sound so dramatic, but maybe they don't have this opportunity, or they wish they could sit with somebody who maybe has moved on. So you guys get to actually do it. That's a beautiful moment that we're all living in right now.
Totally.
That you guys have this moment. So I commend you both for coming on and doing that. How much does his influence you in what you do? I mean, you're a talented guy. I mean, you're also getting into the film world and
slowly, yes.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's one step at a time.
It's listening to his story today reminded me so much about how like there's certain parallels definitely between him and I. Even just talking about Memento, how that was his sort of like movie. Yeah. Like my movie was Interstellar. So like both influenced by Chris Nolan at a young age. No, but me and my sister talk about this all the time. Thomas has really been like a guiding light for chasing your passion and staying inspired for our whole lives at the most transformative phases in our lives, like as we're trying to figure out what we want to do with our careers. And he's really set an incredible template to me to be able to see that you can achieve your dreams if you put the work in. And so I feel like the age difference is really great too. It's something that I've come to really appreciate. He's not so much older than me, but he's not the same age. It's kind of a perfect separation. So I can see like a couple steps ahead where I'd like to be. And I just feel like I'm chasing greatness, you know. That's kind of how it feels with him.
Wow.
And so it's
Love
been really like, I owe a lot to him for whatever I've achieved so far.
I have another question. Is there a project that Thomas has done that really stood out to you, or that impacted you in any kind of way? I mean,
For sure. I remember when I was younger. So Thomas worked on, and I might get this wrong, I forget if it was your first, but Torment was.
Oh yeah, my first feature.
That was super inspirational for like such a weird, at the age, like I was younger and he was talking about how he'd written this feature, and it was like, I could watch it and it was this tangible thing that I could see what he was working on, what he was doing. And it was so inspiring. And I remember I went and like, as soon as I found out it was available to watch, I forget where I watched it. I went and watched it and I was like, oh my God, like this is what he's doing. When he talks about writing stories, building worlds, writing films, working like in Toronto or wherever, I think, you were in Toronto at the time. Like I was able to finally see it. And that was like, I could visualize what it looked like to be pursuing your dreams and working in the industry you're trying to work in. So that was at a young age, that was one of the first things I think I really like saw of his work. And that was super inspiring.
Thomas, come on, man. How does that feel as an artist, right? It's like, well, I mean, even you're an artist now, but I want to ask Thomas, it's like, it doesn't get better than that, you know? I mean, obviously your work has touched many of those bigger projects probably than your first feature that you've created, but I mean, there's one human being right there that completely was affected. Because everything you just said, I get. That's what made me fall in love. I think that's what made all of us, as this, fall in love with the art form. It's what you said. It's like when you did the one act in school, it was seeing that like you created this world and audiences came in, and then this marriage that happens, which I love in the small box black in theater, but in film as well. I think that's what Tarantino's saying, is there used to be, before it just went 2 weeks and then the streamers, it was like you had this audience in a theater. That's the magic. It's like, that's pure what you did there, for you to be able to see like, wow, he wrote this, created this, made it work, and now it's on this box that I'm watching out of the mind of Thomas. Like, that's the magic. So cool.
It's humbling in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Because it's funny with Torment. So Torment was the first feature I think it was actually the first paid writing job I ever had. I was like 24, brought in to rewrite this horror film, and they brought me in to rewrite this horror film. They said, we're shooting in 6 weeks, so you have to completely page one it, rewrite it. So I wrote the first draft over the weekend, and then just continued to revise it, and we worked on together. And so in the moment, you're going through all of that, and then you're on set, and you can't believe you're doing this, and a car is blowing up, and you're with just like all these. You're with the serial killer from The Story, who's the sweetest person in the world under the mask, and you have that experience, and it's incredible. But then to see the audience reaction from someone I love, and from someone who really connected with it, and not necessarily because it's a great horror film, but just for what it means for the people who came together to make it, it quickly becomes one of the most cherished experiences in hindsight.
Yeah.
Because of that. I mean, I'm constantly just touched and blown away by Andrew's energy, by his determination, by his spirit, and I try to remind him as much as possible, it's not all because of me. Like, you're doing this on your own. No one can do it for you. No one can do this for you. No one's going to come and get you that job or say, hey, I hear you want to work in film or TV or whatever. Want to be an architect or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have to put in that effort, and you have to put in that time and that drive, and that's not easy.
No.
So credit where credit's due. Like you've led your own path.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. No, that's great. That leads into, I was just going to ask you, which was, I mean, we just got to like witness that. I was going to ask you fatherhood. You're a father, husband, fatherhood. What, how has fatherhood impacted how you do your art and, positive, negative?
Yeah, fatherhood's completely changed me for all the reasons you'd expect. And I think the way that fatherhood changes everybody, the way parenthood changes everybody. It's very much so now of when you're writing on let's say you're writing on a series, that's your life. It's going to be basically a 24/7 job, even though there are set room hours. You are going to be working on whether it's meetings with production after hours or script revisions or whatever, or there's a problem on set you got to deal with. So all of that's taking me away from my family, and which is fine if it's worth it. That's where becoming a father and having my family is like, it has solidified things in the perspective that they matter. So if I'm working on a story point and I have a colleague, this is a pure hypothetical, no one's ever done this, I swear. If I'm working on a story and I have a colleague who's very passionate, let's say, upset about a change, or we have to do this or that or whatever, and that frustration, the venting of that frustration or the sharing of that frustration, sitting in that takes an hour. My immediate thought is like, this is not worth it.
Right.
This is entertainment, and I love making entertainment. But at the end of the day, this process needs to be joyful, and let's remind ourselves it's sometimes a job, because what I really want to do when I'm done is go and play with my kid. What I really want to do is go imagine with him and make him laugh and show him things that I love and do all that. And so it's quickly become how fatherhood has changed me is now what I do is really for them, is really for our family. Like I want him to also see, dream.
Yeah.
Dream, but also work hard.
Yeah. Love that. Is the juice worth the squeeze? That's a great perspective. Man, that's a great way. The way you just articulated that. It's especially as artists, especially in this business, we chase. Sometimes I take jobs just to take the job, like because I want to work. I've recently done that a couple times in stuff where I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm in. And then it's an incredible amount of work because when you craft it, you want it to be perfect. You want to be the best. And then, I'm getting, you go, was that worth it? But having a family it pivots that. It's like you're more conscious to like, no, I already know this project's not going to be worth what I have to put into it. Or yes, this is. So I don't know if I'm making sense. That made sense to me. You're not going to work on stuff like you said earlier. We need an assistant for free. We need this. You're not going to take on certain projects unless you're fully passionate about it or financially it makes sense.
Oh, of course. I mean, we all, everybody's got to work.
Yeah.
And I've also taken those jobs because I need to take those jobs, et cetera. It's the things where you do have a choice that isn't a monetary impact is what you engage in as far as stresses, is what you engage in as far as dramas, gossip, the things that every single job has, the complaints and hardships and struggles and all those feelings that we all have as human beings. It doesn't matter in what industry, every single industry.
Yeah.
Having a family for me is, again, it comes back to it's being an anchor of like, that stuff doesn't matter. I don't... okay, so we lost a location of filming, and now we have to rewrite this scene that I thought was great, and now we have to change the scene to be this, and normal work issues come up. And having a family and having my son and my wife has just really put things in perspective of going, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so let's go with it, because there's going to be more down the road. This is not it.
Yeah.
There's so much more to be had, and it's truly limitless if you allow it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Having the real, what's really important, that, your family, like knowing what's truly important and worth my energy,
Yeah.
opposed to, sometimes when you're just a free spirit, like you're just this energy, you're wasting a lot of time on negativity that you could just, I always say that, like, that's why I try to do multiple projects. Just my actor friend, we talk a lot about stress of like not getting a job, waiting on auditions, maybe doing a class. But it's like you take the people that, I try to think of myself like that, people that are like taking classes, doing podcasts, creating plays, writing short films while still auditioning actively for it. And then all of a sudden you have so much, I find myself stressing less on things that when you don't have. So you have like a family, and you have serious things that are important in life. So like some of these bickering back and forth, you could just, you pivot quick away from it.
Yeah,
right?
you pivot, you adapt, you roll with it. You ultimately you keep your perspective of what matters. You keep
Right.
your perspective of, this is what this experience is right now, and maybe it's stressful because of X, Y, or Z. But that doesn't mean that I don't have these other experiences simultaneously
Yeah.
that are incredibly fulfilling, whether it be time with my family, like I mentioned, or taking in like a new film that I can't wait to see and being inspired by it for just a 2-hour viewing, or carving out an hour just to write.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm going to go and put my heart into this other thing. Because the way I've always looked at it is like, you can always do something. You are never powerless,
Right.
ever.
Right.
You can do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to piggyback off that
Sure.
too. And this is huge for the audience too. Especially if you're in a position, I feel like, where you're chasing something, but you're not achieving it, or you're not currently on a job, or you're not currently working on a project, but you really want to be. Something that we talked about last year, right when I got done school, I was kind of in this phase of like job hunting and like working on creative projects when I could. But when I wasn't working on something, I felt this tremendous sort of like identity crisis, because I mean, we're all used to the pitch, right? Pitching ourselves, like writer, director, writer, producer. And I'd always been pitching myself as a composer and this and that. And when I wasn't doing that, I very much felt like, well, what am I? If I'm not doing the thing that I pitch myself as, if I'm not doing the thing I'm aspiring to do, then who am I and what am I? And it was a very damaging feeling. And I bring this up because of your emphasis on it being, at the end of the day, it's a job. I mean, compared to like having a family. And so I think that perspective too is so important. Like, if you're not on something right now, if you're not currently working and getting paid for something with your passion, like, that doesn't define who you are. And this is something that Thomas taught me last year, which was really life-changing. It's like, you are the people you surround yourself. You are your hobbies, your loves, your interests.
Yeah.
You are not who you pitch yourself as professionally. And so putting that in perspective, I think, could help people, save from that self-judgment and
That's good.
kind of bypass that.
Yeah, that's good. That's also like I know a lot of people, whether in this industry or not, like we were talking about, any industry you're in, sometimes a job is a job. And sometimes you're doing a 9 to 5 to cover the bills, and but then your passion could be playing the guitar. That's another important thing for the audience. Doesn't necessarily, you may drive a forklift and not love it. I mean, me personally, I've done all kinds of jobs from warehouse before getting into this. I didn't find this till 30, so I had a whole life before getting into the arts. But, you might drive a forklift. You might work a 9 to 5 as, filing paperwork. But you like to play and play that guitar and you're really good at it and that's your passion. So you're right. What you do to make a paycheck also doesn't define who you are or what you do as a hobby, right? We define who we are and your priorities in life and what's important to you. So yeah, that's a good note. Thomas, what I have two questions for you. One, the industry. How do you feel about the changes that are happening? You're pretty involved in it, at a good level. I mean, how do you feel? Are you optimistic about the changes that are happening in the industry, or, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the industry has gone through changes for the last century. There's constant waves, whether it's like the change of the old studio system or the change of TV and then TV movies, and distribution changed in the 90s of like a lot of indie films were able to be made. There's always going to be one of those chapters. We just went through the streaming boom, which is not done. The height of it has passed.
Right.
And so we're becoming something else. The uncertainty is very difficult. The uncertainty of what is this going towards, and it's very easy with that uncertainty to go to the worst case scenario in your head.
Right.
Because I can't see what's going to happen, it's going to be awful.
It's ending.
It's done.
Yeah.
Which I personally, I don't believe. I mean, it's like we love television, we love films. Maybe the masses aren't the same as they once were because there's more options, but compelling, incredible stories are still going to pull people in. And for some reason, it just goes back to Nolan. I don't know why. But it's like you look at Oppenheimer last year. There's a movie about the guy who made the atomic bomb. Look how much money it made.
Yeah.
Like it's on paper, that story shouldn't bring in masses and masses of people.
All right.
But it is told in such a compelling and human way that it does, which gives me hope and optimism of, doesn't matter what the medium is. It could be TikTok. Or maybe not. Maybe not TikTok. But it doesn't matter what the medium is. It's if you are sharing something that is purely a human experience that someone on the other end, the audience's end, can connect with, people will come and watch.
Yeah.
So this right now in the business is just one of those chapters where I have to endure. You have to endure extremely rocky times in a business that shifts, in a business that goes through these changes. You got to also be honest with yourself and go, I picked this.
Yeah.
No one's forcing me to go through this.
Right.
I could move back to Canada and get a teaching job and go do that. So part of that is leaning into it. Part of that is kind of trying to ride the wave, as choppy as the waters may be.
And like you mentioned earlier, adapting and overcoming, I look at a lot of it too. I mean, depending on how passionate you are about whatever discipline you're practicing in the business, but adapting to change is okay too. The idea to me is that creativity will never die. The artistry is not going to die. You're either, I think everybody's an artist, but you either, and some can't do anything else, right? It's just so like the TikToks and the different, some of those are very talented people. Yeah. I see some of them TikTokers, I used to be like, but then like as I go, wow, that was really creative what they did. And it drives me crazy in one sense because I'm like, they just did this in their living room with absolutely no budget, but I couldn't stop watching it, which goes back to the one act in high school. Because you could go, well, what did that cost? It's not Wicked on Broadway where you're dropping, I don't even know what that is, $100 million. It could be a black box theater with 50 people that incredibly inspires and evokes something in someone. So I say, God bless them. You're a TikToker, you're a YouTuber, you make short films, so I think it's just adapting, right? And knowing that, maybe the old Hollywood won't exist. Maybe the A-list craze of who, Marlon Brando's and the Al Pacinos and the Denzel, maybe that isn't going to be a thing in 10 years. I don't know, but I know I could still create an act. I like I may, or write, like you may not. I don't know. That's the stuff I think. Or me and my friends have conversation. They're like, no, it's not going. I go, but are we resisting change or just flowing with it?
Sure.
And just keep creating. If you're an artist, but I feel like the golden eras of the studio and the big movie productions aren't the same. I go see a movie now, there's 10 people in the theater. I mean, that is undeniable. Like, no matter what movie it is, I don't care if it's, Timothy Chalamet's new film. Yeah, you go in, there's 8 people there. I go, wow, this is not normal. From when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, it used to be movies were sold out. Like, you'd have to call, remember? Like, try to get the ticket. Like, oh my goodness, Back to the Future 2. It's like, sold out. Like every show will be sold out, and I guess we could go Sunday morning. That's like non-existent now. I go to the movies, I don't even worry about it. I really don't. I'm like, yeah, there'll be seats.
Which goes to what you were saying of the things that cut through because we have so many options. We can sit down and, do I want to go to the theater? Do I want to go on social media? Do I want to Netflix? Whatever.
Yeah.
It's the passionate human stories or human creations that cut through. The thing that I also try to remember and keep at the forefront is this industry, especially out here, we're kind of in a bubble. Like, this is not the real world.
Right.
It's
yeah, exactly.
Like oh my gosh, I want to go write for this thing or that thing, or they're not making, that Marvel movie didn't draw as much as it normally does. That is important to the business for sure, but it's not real life.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bubble. Like my in-laws, they live in kind of like remote northern Ontario, Canada. And every single time I'm with them and I go there, I'm just like, this is real life. Yeah. Like, this is people who are all they want to do, not all they want to do, but what they get tremendous fulfillment from is sitting around the fire together, telling stories, playing music, like bonding just on a human level. And then at the end of that fire, one of them turns to the other, is like, hey, we should go see Twisters tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it becomes more than just going to see a movie. It becomes a bonding and an outing that brings people closer together. It doesn't matter what the film is. Right. Doesn't matter how much it did in the box office. It's what matters to me, and what I think matters to just people, or at least could be the most fulfilling, is, hey, we're all going to read this book together and then go see the Blake Lively film.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to go do that.
The communal experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the business side of things, which is relevant. Like, at the end of the day, it is a business and it is people's livelihoods, of course. But I keep going back to who's the audience. And the audience are people who are just like living their lives and going through the same struggles we all are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And would just like some escape. And if you can offer that, great. If they choose that, even better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Well put. Listen, before we close out, we do something. Okay. So what we ask the guests to do is look at that camera. Anybody who's watching, hearing your story, inspired, thinking, man, I'd like to write. I'd like to follow that. What kind of words of encouragement do you have for that person?
Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's the arts. Doesn't matter if it's trade. Persevere. Keep going. There will be more difficult times than not. There will be more no's than yeses. Think of it this way. You have to go through 1,000 no's before you get that one yes that changes your life. Persevere.
Dang.
I love that.
He's so good at that.
Yeah, that's a solid message, Tom. I'm going to close this out. Thank you both.
Thank you.
For sitting in. No, I really appreciate it. Hey, everybody, this was another episode of FY. Super inspiring. Thomas delivers it. I got so many gems here. Persevere. You know what? Enough said. That's how we're going to close it out. Persevere. See you on the next one.
You should never stress about the problems you be facing. Everybody in the mud on the struggle trying to make it. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration. I'm finding inspiration, and once I get a hold of it, I'll never get complacent. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration.